Hello and welcome to busyworksbeats.com. I need you guys to smash that like button to extend that S. Today I'm going to show you how to make melodies easily. We will go from beginner level to advanced, or to beginner to intermediate to advanced pretty quickly. So if you don't know me, I'm Game from busyworksbeats.com. We've trained over 1 million producers around the world, so I'm going to work with Drake, Kanye West, Post Malone, Ariana Grande, French Montana, Young Thug, Polo G, Lil Baby, Trippie Redd, J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar, and a long list of other artists. So we're going to use my plugin called Hercules. If you guys go to busyworksbeats.com/Hercules, you can find this plugin here. We're going to load up some like essential sound. Let's go to like keys and do the truth. Okay, so firstly with melody, we're going to turn the metronome on to really understand rhythm. We're at 140 BPM for now. Now keep in mind melody and rhythm coincide. So if we produce melodies at a slower BPM, we'll produce different melodies than producing at higher BPMs. Okay. So firstly, let's add a root note. We'll use C in this case. So C is just where we're starting. There's no like magical place to start. We could just start anywhere we want. So let's start at C. And what I'm going to do is copy that note down an octave. And what we are truly doing is creating a foundation for this track. Let's copy this, hit shift. We're going to pull this up. So really we're playing what's called a minor third. This note is 3 notes away from C. So it's 0, 1, 2, 3. And then let's play 7 notes away from C. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so it goes root note. This is called a minor third in this case, which is 3 notes away. And then we're going to what's called a perfect fifth, which is 7 notes away. So we're really playing a minor chord, but we're just spreading it out. So it's 0, 1, 2, 3. 4, 5, 6, 7. 0, 3, 7 always makes the minor chord. 0 is your root note. And just count up your keyboard note by note. 1, 2, 3. 4, 5, 6, 7. You always get the minor chord. So all we're doing though is taking this chord and just making it, separating these notes into different root notes. So we're really playing a chord. This is why when people ask me how to make better melodies and you skip over chords, that's why you guys are confused half the time. Because chords make up the majority of melody for the most part. Okay, now let's talk about, that was our root note. I'll call that the contrast layer. Melody comes in 4 layers. You have your top line layer, you have your harmony section, you have your contrast layer, and you have your rhythm section. Those can be combined and interchanged, but those are the 4 components of melody. So far, we've created a contrast layer. This is usually your lowest frequency of your melody. Okay, so I have my snap to grid set to 1/2 beat, so it's easy. So now let's create harmony. Not every song needs harmony, but for this video, we're going to add harmony in here. Let's add harmony starting at C. So we're going to copy all these root notes, basically. Pull them up an octave, control up in FL Studio. So now we need to give these chords an identity. We can talk about scale degrees and all this stuff. The easiest method is to just start off with a minor or a major chord, copy and paste it, and if it sounds wrong, change it to a minor chord. I'll show you guys what we're talking about here. So since we basically split up the minor chord, which was 0, 3, and 7, okay, here are the notes that we split up. What we are going to do here is start off with assuming that we're in the minor scale. Now I'll turn these notes down a little bit. Okay, so what we will do is copy these notes. So now I'm copying the minor chord over. It's a little hard to hear the harmony, so let me turn it back up actually. So this feels quote unquote wrong. It does have a little tension. We could get away with it, but let's convert this to a major chord. So the way we do that is we take this middle note of our minor chord, hit shift up to transpose it up 1. So the major chord code is 0, 4, 7. 0 meaning the root note where you start, and then 1, count up your keyboard note by note, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 0, 4, 7 always makes the major chord. In the beginning, we started off with a minor chord, which is 0, 3, 7. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's the difference between a major and a minor chord. Now let's copy this chord over and ask, does it feel right? To me, that felt too bright, so let's pull that down to the minor. and then let's copy this starting chord over here. Now I'm going to show you guys how to turn this beginner level chord progression into a more advanced chord progression. Let's copy this over. What we'll do here is take this fifth and the tonic, hit shift down to transpose that down. And that's how we're creating tension to bring us back to the beginning. So that's an advanced technique you guys could use, is pull your tonic and your fifth down a half step. Now let's add, so far the layers that we have. So once you see melody as layers, it makes more sense. We have the contrast layer here, which is usually lower frequencies. We have the harmony section. This fills up the middle part of the melody. Nextly, we have the top line. So the top line is usually the top notes of your chords raised up at least one octave. Let's pull this up one octave. Now let's swap out the sound because this piano is very aggressive. But I like to write with stringed instruments, piano, guitar, violin, string ensemble, because then you guys can hear the actual, what's the word there? The actual timbre, I guess would be the best expression there. Okay, with strings. So, and then you can always convert it to a different sound. So here's what I do all the time. I'll start with the piano and then I'll swap the instrument. Let's swap it for some kind of bell of some sort. And let's go here. So again, you can find my plugin at busyworksbeats.com/Hercules. Here are some of my favorite sounds. So now let's give this top line a difference between the harmony timing and the contrast timing. The point of the contrast layer is to be different than, the top line. So if they're doing the same movements, it's kind of hard to really hear the top line. Not mandatory, but this will create more contrast. Contrast means difference. So now let's add some notes in here. We're going to copy the notes over and pull this up 7 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So with the top line, the only number you really need to memorize is the number 7. Because we resolved down 7, that's a complete intervallic resolution. And going up 7 gives you what's called the perfect fifth, which is always harmonious. Now, everything doesn't need to be 1, 2, 3, do, do, do. It's just too much movement. So I think right around here, we don't need that movement. So this is where we go out of key on purpose at the end. So this chord progression is called a 1-3-5-1 chord progression. You don't need to memorize it. Just showing you guys where chords come from, how important chords are. We started off with the chord that we split into a chord progression. Okay, so it all starts with the chord. Now, one more thing we can do to go into intermediate level. So that's beginner level stuff. Now let's take this up to intermediate level. We will hit shift down to transpose. So now we're not in the key of C minor anymore. Okay, so an intermediate technique is to go to our tools here. Let's go to humanize. Now this works for more velocity sensitive instruments. This one isn't as velocity sensitive. Let's create a start time offset. And also it's going to mess with velocity. Let's hit accept. So basically humanize the notes by either nudging them around or turning the volume up or down. So it's a little more random. Let's go to tools and remove overlaps. That's an FL Studio thing, to where notes that overlap don't play. And then we're going to grab the slice tool, make sure we're not overlapping into the next bar. So again, this depends on the actual instrument. This will work best for like grand pianos that are deeply sampled. Let me think of a plugin that would have like a deeply sampled piano. Okay, so if it's too much movement at the end, we could always take out that movement. I'm going to up my buffer length because now we have so much processing going on. All right, so let's copy this and paste it. So I'm going to show you guys a grand piano sound just to show you what it would sound like. So I'm going to take out some of the notes that are too expressive. Okay, so I'm going to edit some of these notes. Also, we could hit Alt-L only with selection to make sure individual notes don't overlap so that we can finish that phrase. So that's why I like to write in piano, because I could hear some of the tones harmonically. And let's paste that back into Hercules, and then we'll start adding effects. So let's keep writing in piano, and then let's transpose it back. So now I'm going to ask, what can we do to make this more expressive? So this is the usual thing that people don't add to their melodies, is expression. So the first thing I'm going to do is elongate these top notes, because in real piano, you could use what's called a sustain pedal, and it creates a tone because you're really playing multiple notes over top of each other, which creates unique harmony. Let's go to tools here and let's remove the overlap. You guys can get that script from the Image Line forums. It does not come with FL Studio by default. Hit Shift with that slice tool. So now we're going to have these top lines overlapping each other. It's going to create more of a smeary sound. Another thing, these harmonies are a little loud. Let's highlight these, hit Alt-X, and then pull the multiply level down. And to add more grit, we're going to turn the bottom notes up, hit Alt-X, turn your multiply, pull this up. And one more intermediate thing we could do is revoice these chords. So instead of everything going upward, let's create a point that we don't go above. So in this case, F sharp, I don't want to go above this point. So anything above that point, we're going to highlight, hit Control down. Now this chord, I like the chord. I want to try a seventh chord. I know I'm getting a little advanced pretty quickly here, but this is what you guys can create once you understand music theory. So here we have a major chord. Let's add this major seventh. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a major third, 5, 6, 7. That's 0, 4, 7, which always creates a major chord. To create the major seventh, we need to add 11 in here. So this is 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then this note is above the note that we don't want to go above. So let's pull this down an octave. Now, because these two are right next to each other, it will create dissonance, but let's just see what it sounds like. Sounds good to me, even though they're like clashing, it sounds good. Just like, dun. So I like that tone. One thing I do want to try is transposing this to a different key. So I'm going to transpose it over, and let's hear it in E instead of B. Let's hear it at E and see which octave we're going to like. So now we're in a different scale, different key. I want to change one of these. I'm not sure what I want to do with that last note, but I definitely want another tone. Dun. Okay, so I do hear that tone. I'll probably correct that over time. Okay, so let's say we want to combine these two different scales. How do we combine two different scales? And this is where we get into advanced music theory. So as you guys can see, we ramped up pretty quickly from beginner level chord progressions to intermediate. Okay, and now let's talk about the advanced stuff. So now we're going to slice this last chord in half. We're going to actually remove this chord, and we are going to add a dominant ninth chord. So we're going to go to our chord stamp, go to the number 9. This is called a dominant ninth. And you want the dominant ninth, or excuse me, you want the dominant ninth chord placed where the root note is to be the 5th of whatever you're moving into. I know that sounded way more complicated than what it is, but basically if you're moving into E, count up 7 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So what we'll do is we'll plant this ninth chord starting at that note, which is B. So we already came from B, so let's start at B. Now my ear likes this R&B-ified, so I take that 5th and 9th, I pull it up a half step. Let's hear this in this voicing, and we might have to change out the voicing. Let's add that bass tone here. Okay, so we're using the 5th of the next scale to transition into that scale, because the 5th to the tonic resolution creates the best resolution, and that's how we can go from different keys to other keys. So I like this tone. I just want to switch out some of these voicings here. Now that was more jazz-like, pulling that ninth down. And I want to pull the note B down just so it's not a dramatic jump. So we literally combined 2 different keys. The only difference is that we went from, what was it, B to E, and E is the tonic. If B is the 5th, E would be the tonic. So there is some relativity. We're not going into like a wild different key, but we are how many notes away? It should be 5 notes away. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 notes away. Okay, we're in 5 notes away. So that's how you guys can go in and out of key using that dominant chord. Let's humanize that chord so it's not so aggressive. I want some kind of like matching tone with this. I like the dun. Let's try dropping. I don't know what my ear wants to hear, but it wants to hear another tone in here. So this is more of a composition, and this is what most people want to create. Let's add some expression in here. Let's highlight that ninth, dominant ninth chord. Let's hit Alt-S to strum. Now, strumming only works when you have notes at the same exact time. As I'm turning this up, you don't see a dramatic difference because these notes aren't aligned. But we're going to turn this up for the notes that are aligned to strum them out a little bit. So what I've done is I've added a lower octave of E and a higher octave. So this is how advanced you guys can get. Using these components, you could build out really long chord progressions and melodies. But everybody wants to skip chords, and that's where you guys are messing up. Go to busyworksbeats.com/music theory essentials, because in that course, I show you guys the foundation of music theory, and I show you how to build it up just like this. If you guys want to take it to the advanced level, look at Music Theory Magic. That is my most advanced music theory course so far. So from this point, we're just going to add effects. I'm going to swap out the instrument just to show you guys what it sounds like if we swap this out for like a synth. Actually, let me keep that pattern there. Let's clone this. We have, just so we have a before and after. Paste this in. So pattern 2 is our after, and then pattern 1 is before. So let's just hear the musicality of this. Let's get rid of this. So here's pattern 1, and then pattern 2 we will have the longer sound. So now I'm just deciding on the actual sound source. Once we have all the music done, now we're going to go back and change out the source sound using Hercules at busyworksbeats.com/Hercules. Now let's start adding effects. I have a plugin called Hades at busyworksbeats.com/Hades. We're going to load this up. If you're on Mac, just hit OK on this screen. And basically, we're going to mess with the dimension of the sound. Hades is a plugin that adds dimension to your melodies. Okay, so by default, it's going to add a tone. So we're going to mess with the input and outputs to create. If you crank the input, it has like a special effect. Let's hear before and after. Here's before. Here's after. Okay, so it adds a little dimension to the sound. The sound was built to not need effects, but I created Hades for melodies. You guys can find that at busyworksbeats.com/Hades. Here's before. Here's after. Now this type of sound, I wouldn't really add a bunch of effects to it. It's already very full. Reverb wouldn't really add much to it because we already filled up a lot of the density. Delay wouldn't really add much again because we filled in a lot of those gaps. Pitch shifting we could mess with. Granulization, kind of down sampling. So if anything, I might add like a kilohertz bit crush. And in this plugin, you can right click the sample rate to set the sample rate. We're going to set it to the 40K sample rate or 20K, either one. But let's right click. So 40, 1, 2, 3, and then bit rate 12. And I turn up the quality. This will give it an MPC texture, shaving off some of the high end. Now, if you want to be more dramatic, you can right click the sample rate, make this 20K. So now we're in lo-fi land at this point. maybe add some compression like the Rosetta compressor. I'm going to turn it on auto gain mode so that we hear just the effect. That will blend some of our textures together. Let's do a before and after the effects. See, now the effect pulls everything together. It adds that analog touch. Let's try out a couple more sounds and then we'll wrap this up. So I like the sound for this vibe. All right, guys, if you want to learn more music theory, go to busyworksbeats.com/music theory essentials. I'll leave a link below. If you want to learn advanced music theory, go to busyworksbeats.com/music theory magic. You guys can find Hercules at busyworksbeats.com/Hercules, and then the Hades plugin at busyworksbeats.com/Hades. Subscribe if you're new, like this video, share with a friend, comment. Peace.